Welcome back to the Dallas Cowboys Today News, and today we're diving headfirst into one of the most electrifying stories in the NFL right now, the ongoing contract saga surrounding Dallas Cowboys superstar defender Micah Parsons. Buckle up, because we've got a ton to unpack, with fresh updates from two of the most trusted voices in football, Schefter and Pelissero, shedding new light on this high-stakes negotiation. This isn't just any contract talk. This is a blockbuster deal that could reshape the NFL's financial landscape and cement Micah Parsons as the face of defensive excellence for years to come. So, let's get right into it and break down every detail of this unfolding drama for all you Cowboys fans out there. Before we dive into the nitty-gritty, I want to give a quick shout-out to everyone who's been joining our Micah decision pool. If you haven't jumped in yet, now's your chance to get in on the action. Head over to chatsports.com/Micah to make your prediction on when Micah Parsons will finally ink his massive contract extension, or, in the unlikely event, if he gets traded. It's just $5 to enter, and you can Venmo me directly at @whatgoingdowny. The pot is already up to $20 and climbing fast, with the winner taking home half of whatever we raise. So, don't wait. Get your picks in before the deadline hits. Now, let's talk about why this contract situation is the talk of the NFL. Schefter dropped a bombshell update recently, and it's got Cowboys Nation buzzing. According to Schefter, the Cowboys and Micah Parsons have been engaged in what he describes as positive conversations throughout the offseason. That's right, there's real progress being made behind closed doors. Schefter went on to say that there's a widespread belief across the NFL that a deal will be finalized sometime this summer, and when it happens, it's going to be nothing short of historic. We're talking about a contract that will make Micah Parsons the highest-paid defensive player in NFL history, blowing past the massive deals that have already reset the market for elite defenders like Myles Garrett. Schefter didn't mince words, calling it a massive number that will set a new benchmark for non-quarterbacks across the league. Let's put this into perspective for a moment. Micah Parsons isn't just a great player, he's a generational talent. At just 26 years old, he's already a 3-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time All-Pro, and a perennial Defensive Player of the Year candidate. His ability to disrupt offenses as a pass rusher, linebacker, and all-around playmaker is unmatched. The Cowboys know they have a once-in-a-lifetime player on their hands, and the league knows it too. That's why this contract isn't just about locking up a star. It's about setting a new standard for what elite defensive players can earn. Schefter's report suggests that Parsons' deal could surpass the $40 million per year mark recently set by Bengals wide receiver Ja'Marr Chase, who currently holds the title of the highest-paid non-quarterback in the NFL. If Micah's camp is aiming for something like $45 million annually with guarantees north of $125 million, we're talking about a contract that will send shockwaves through the league. But here's where things get interesting. While Schefter's update paints an optimistic picture, with a deal potentially coming in the next few weeks, we've been down this road before with the Cowboys. If you've been a fan for a while, you know how this front office operates. They love to play the waiting game, dragging negotiations right up to the brink of training camp. It's almost like clockwork. Whether it was Ezekiel Elliott holding out, Dak Prescott's multi-year saga, or Amari Cooper's extension talks, the Cowboys have a knack for letting these things simmer until the pressure is at its peak. Schefter's timeline of the next few weeks conveniently aligns with the start of training camp, which has always been the unofficial deadline for Dallas to wrap up their big contracts. But here's the thing, this habit of waiting until the last minute is starting to frustrate fans, and I'd bet it's not sitting well with Micah Parsons either. Speaking on the Rich Eisen show, Pelissero suggested that the holdup might not be about the money itself, but rather the length of the contract. This is a critical point that a lot of fans might overlook. While everyone agrees that Micah should be the highest-paid defender, the question is how long he's willing to commit to the Cowboys. Pelissero pointed out that the Cowboys have a history of pushing for longer deals, think 5, 6, or even 7 years for their cornerstone players like Dak Prescott and DeMarcus Lawrence. The logic from the team's perspective is simple. A longer contract spreads out the cap hit and gives them more flexibility in the short term. But for a player like Micah, who's still in his mid-20s and at the peak of his powers, a long-term deal could mean leaving money on the table down the road. Here's why. The NFL salary cap is rising every year, and contracts that look massive today can become outdated in just a few seasons. If Micah signs a 6 or 7 year deal, he could be locked in until his early or mid-30s, potentially missing out on another big payday while he's still in his prime. Players and their agents have become smarter about this over the years. Remember Tyron Smith's 8-year extension with the Cowboys? By the end of that deal, he was massively underpaid compared to the exploding market for offensive linemen. Agents learned from those older contracts, which often had team-friendly structures, where the guaranteed money dried up long before the deal ended. Nowadays, it's rare for a star player to sign anything longer than 5 years, unless the guarantees are absolutely astronomical. For Micah, who's only 26, a 4 or 5 year deal makes the most sense. That would put him around 30 or 31 when the contract expires, giving him another shot at a massive extension while he's still a dominant force. A 3-year deal is probably too short for the Cowboys' liking, as it would mean renegotiating again almost immediately. On the flip side, a 6 or 7 year deal is likely a non-starter for Micah's camp, as it would limit his earning potential in his prime years. Pelissero's take suggests that the two sides are likely haggling over this exact issue, finding a sweet spot that works for both the team and the player. My guess? They'll settle on a 4 or 5 year deal with a record-breaking annual average and hefty guarantees, something in the range of $40.5 million per year and over $125 million guaranteed. Let's talk numbers for a second, because this is where things get jaw-dropping. Ja'Marr Chase's recent extension with the Bengals, worth over $40 million per year, set the bar for non-quarterbacks. Micah Parsons is almost certainly aiming to top that, and for good reason. He's not just a great player, he's a game-changer who can single-handedly take over a game. His 45 sacks in his first 4 seasons, relentless motor, and versatility to play multiple positions make him a unicorn in the NFL. The Cowboys can't afford to let him even sniff free agency, and they know it. A deal in the $40.5 million range with $125 million or more in guarantees wouldn't surprise anyone. In fact, it's probably the bare minimum to get this done. But here's the kicker: the longer the Cowboys wait, the more expensive this gets. Every year, the market for elite players climbs higher, and smart teams know that overpaying early can actually save money in the long run. Look at some of the contracts signed a few years ago. Deals that seemed massive at the time, like Aaron Donald's or Khalil Mack's, now look like bargains because the salary cap keeps rising. If the Cowboys had locked up Micah last offseason, they might have gotten him for slightly less. Now, with the market reset by players like Chase, they're looking at a number that could redefine the defensive market entirely. And it's not just about Micah. As soon as his deal is done, it's going to set off a chain reaction across the league. Players like T.J. Watt, who's still one of the NFL's premier pass rushers, will look at Micah's contract and demand something even bigger when their own extensions come up. That's why there's real urgency for the Cowboys to move first. If Watt or another star defender signs before Micah, it could drive the price tag even higher, putting Dallas in a tougher spot. I'm personally more worried about Watt's deal getting done first, because that would force the Cowboys to chase an even bigger number. For now, though, all signs point to Micah's contract being the richest ever for a defensive player, and possibly for any non-quarterback. Let's take a step back and look at why this deal is so critical for the Cowboys' future. Micah Parsons isn't just a player, he's the heart and soul of this defense. Since being drafted 12 overall in 2021, he's transformed the Cowboys' defensive identity. Under Dan Quinn, And now with Mike Zimmer as defensive coordinator, Parsons has been the cornerstone of a unit that's gone from middling to elite. His ability to line up anywhere, edge rusher, off-ball linebacker, even dropping into coverage, makes him a matchup nightmare for offenses. He's not just a sack machine, he's a leader who sets the tone for the entire team. Losing him to free agency or a trade, which, let's be clear, is highly unlikely, would be catastrophic for Dallas's Super Bowl aspirations. The Cowboys are at a crossroads right now. After another disappointing playoff loss, the pressure is on to build a roster that can finally get over the hump. Jerry Jones and the front office know that keeping Micah Parsons happy and locked in is priority number one. A distracted or disgruntled star player heading into training camp is the last thing this team needs. That's why fans are growing increasingly frustrated with the slow pace of these negotiations. It's not just about the money, it's about showing Micah that he's valued and appreciated as the cornerstone of this franchise. The longer this drags on, the more it risks becoming a distraction as the season approaches. Speaking of distractions, let's address the elephant in the room, the possibility of a holdout. Now, I don't think it's likely, but we can't completely rule it out. Micah has been vocal about wanting to stay with the Cowboys long-term, but he's also made it clear that he knows his worth. If the two sides can't agree on a deal before training camp, there's always a chance that Parsons could skip some practices or even hold out to put pressure on the front office. We saw Ezekiel Elliott do it successfully a few years ago, and while Micah seems committed to the team, players at his level have leverage. A holdout would be a nightmare scenario for Dallas, especially with a tough schedule ahead and high expectations for 2025. That's why I believe both sides are motivated to get this done sooner rather than later. Let's shift gears for a moment and talk about what this contract means for the Cowboys' salary cap. Some fans might be worried about how a $40 million plus annual salary will impact the team's ability to build a roster around Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and other key players. It's a valid concern, but the Cowboys have been here before. They've managed to navigate big contracts for stars like Doc, Zeke, and DeMarcus Lawrence while still fielding a competitive team. The key is structuring the deal, smartly front-loading guarantees, using signing bonuses to spread out the cap hit, and taking advantage of the rising salary cap. By the time Micah's deal is in its later years, the cap could be well over $300 million, making his $40 million salary look more manageable. Plus, let's not forget that the Cowboys have a history of finding creative ways to manipulate the cap. Whether it's restructuring contracts, converting salaries into bonuses, or kicking the can down the road, Jerry Jones and cap guru Stephen Jones are masters at making the numbers work. Will it limit their ability to sign big free agents? Maybe. But the core of this team, Doc, CeeDee, Micah, and others, is already in place. The focus now is on locking up the players who are already here and building through the draft to fill in the gaps. A record-breaking deal for Micah won't break the bank. It's just the cost of doing business in today's NFL. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture. This contract isn't just about Micah Parsons or the Cowboys. It's about the evolution of the NFL's financial landscape. We're in an era where player salaries are skyrocketing, and the gap between quarterbacks and non-quarterbacks is starting to narrow. Just a few years ago, it was unthinkable for a non-quarterback to approach $40 million per year. Now, with players like Jamar Chase and soon Micah Parsons breaking that barrier, we're seeing a new reality where elite skill players can command salaries that rival those of top quarterbacks. This is a good thing for the game. It rewards the players who drive viewership and make the biggest impact on the field. For Cowboys fans, though, this is more than just a financial story. It's about hope, pride, and the belief that this team can finally break through and win that elusive sixth Super Bowl. Micah Parsons is the kind of player who can carry a team to a championship. His energy, his passion, and his relentless pursuit of greatness are what make him special. When this deal gets done, and I firmly believe it will, it's going to be a moment of celebration for Cowboys Nation. It's a signal that the team is all in on building around their best players and making a serious run at a title. Before I wrap up, I want to remind everyone to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're in a heated sub-battle for the month of June, and while we've made some ground on Ravens' rundown, they're still ahead of us. Cowboys fans, we know we've got the biggest and best fan base in the NFL, so let's prove it. Subscribe for free to get daily Cowboys coverage, breaking news, and all the latest updates on Micah Parsons and the rest of the team. When this contract finally gets signed, we'll be here to break down every detail, analyze what it means for the Cowboys' future, and keep you in the loop every step of the way. In the end, I'm confident that Micah Parsons will get his record-setting contract and remain a Cowboy for years to come. It might take a little longer than we'd like, but the writing is on the wall. This deal is going to happen, and it's going to be historic. The Cowboys know they can't let a player like Micah slip away, and Micah knows Dallas is the place where he can cement his legacy as one of the all-time greats. So, stay tuned, Cowboys Nation, because the next few weeks are going to be a wild ride. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next show.